I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean in my soul. I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean, I've got love like the ocean in my soul. Well, good evening. That's welcome to Kids Corner, and I hope you're having a great day. That's a hard song to sing when you can't stand up and do all the actions and have to try to stay within the camera here, but I hope you sang along with me. I hope you're having a great week and a great day today. But on Kids Corner, I want to ask you a question. Brought with me a glass of water there. I want to ask you a question and look at it really closely. Would you say this glass is half full or half empty? If you think it's half empty, raise your hands. Okay, put them down. Now, if you think the glass is half full, raise your hands. Okay, all right, now put them down. Now, here's the truth. When you look at that glass, is it half full? Is it half empty? And the answer is, you're both right. You're both right. See, sometimes, if a cup is half full, then it's also half empty at the same time. They both happen at the same time. And this is a kind of question that people ask to kind of test your personality and try to determine what kind of person you are by how you answer that question. They'll say that if you voted that is a half full glass of water, they'll call you an optimist. And an optimist is somebody who always sees the positive in things. If you are the one who voted that it is half empty, well, they'll tell you that you are a pessimist, and a pessimist is somebody who only sees the negative things. But it's not really fair to judge people that way with that kind of a question, because, again, when we look at that glass of water, it's both half full and half empty at the same time. There's a story in the Bible about optimists and pessimists I want to talk to you about this evening. It comes from the book of Numbers in chapters 13 and 14. And it's about the children of Israel, and they had traveled. This is after they had traveled out of slavery in Egypt. They were headed toward the promised land that God had promised them. This is the land of Canaan that God had promised to Abraham, their forefather, and so they were traveling to get there, and they got to the border of Canaan, and their leader Moses, who had led them out of Egypt and had been leading them this whole time, at the border he sent out 12 spies into the land of Canaan. Wanted to see what it looked like, what was there, what they were going to be dealing with as they went into the land of Canaan, the promised land. When all those spies came back, there were two different stories that were told. Two of the men, Joshua and Caleb, reported that the promised land was everything that God said it was. It was beautiful. It was a land filled with milk and honey. It was plentiful. It was ripe for the taking. And that God was faithful, and he was going to fulfill every promise that he made to them. And so that was the story they told. The other 10, they brought back a different story that said that Canaan was dangerous. It was a land filled with giants and terrifying warriors. The cities were well fortified, which means they were very well protected, had walls around them, things like that, and that their people were skilled warriors, very good at fighting. And so they were really, really scared and said, there's no way we can take this land. It's not good for us to do this right now. And so which of the two groups were right? Were Joshua and Caleb right? Or were the other 10 right? And the answer is both. They were both right in a sense, okay? They were both right because Canaan was the promised land. It was a land of milk and honey. It was a land that was very plentiful, but it was also a land of giants. And so the other group was right that there were giants there. Now, they weren't listening to God like they should, but they were right, that it was a country of giants. But God had promised to give this land to them, to the Israelites. And after all of the miracles that God did, getting them out of Egypt, from the plagues to the parting of the Red Sea to the providing of manna and quail for them to eat every day, He'd done all of those things. And so after He'd done all of those things, who do you think the people listened to? Did they listen to God when He said, this is the promised land and you're going to have this land regardless of the giants? Or did He listen to the 10 who said there's giants and it's too scary? Well, when you go read it, what we find out is they listened to the 10 men who talked about giants, and he talked about being scared. They were so afraid that some of them even said, we're better off being slaves in Egypt. Can you imagine that? They didn't have very much faith, did they? Well, because the Israelites ignored Joshua and Caleb and essentially ignored God, God punished the entire nation of Israel. And he sent them to wander in the wilderness for the next 40 years. Well, why 40 years? Well, it would take that long. It would take 40 years for that generation that didn't believe. They didn't believe Joshua and Caleb. They didn't believe God. It would take that long for all of that generation to die. And God said He would let that generation, would let their children enter the promised land 40 years later, led by Joshua himself. Sometimes you and I are faced with giants, things that are scary, things that seem impossible. It's going to happen, and when we have those times, when that day comes that we have a giant in our life, whatever that giant is, there might be people that tell you to give up, that tell you that it's impossible, that tell you that your glass is only half full, right? But God has made a promise to each and every one of us. He's promised us to be careful. He's promised us He's going to take care of us, but what we have to do is be careful to listen to Him and not be a pessimist, but just to listen to what He tells us. Listen to what He promises us. Believing in the Lord is more than just optimism. It's having faith. It's being faithful to God when we listen to Him, and when we listen to Him and we're faithful to Him, He's faithful to us as well. And in fact, He's faithful to us even before we're faithful to Him. That's what's so amazing about God. He's promised to always be there for us. Even when we mess up or fall or stumble, God is still there with us every single day, all the time. And so if people tell you to give up, people tell you it's too hard or impossible, you just remember that God is a big, big God, and that God keeps all of His promises when He says He'll help us with the things that even seem impossible. I hope this is encouraging to you, and I want you to take this with you. And you can look up in Numbers 13 and 14 and read those stories with your mom or dad or grandma and grandpa. Read a little bit more about Joshua and Caleb and that story of the 12 spies. Love you guys. Sure miss you guys. Hope to see you very soon. And until next time, I'll see you next week on Kids Corner. Bye for now.